All right, guys, let's talk about the split jerk. So the split jerk might be one of the most fun movements to learn right off the bat. It's one of the more complicated looking movements, but it's something you can pick up on pretty fast, and it can be a lot of fun to learn and play around with. The jerk, along with the clean and the snatch, are considered our Olympic weightlifting movements. They're called Olympic weightlifting movements because in the Olympics, the sport of weightlifting involves a snatch, which is barbell from the ground, jumping it straight overhead, and then it involves the clean and jerk, which is barbell on the ground, then we stop off at our shoulders, and then put it up over our head. There's a lot of different styles and variations done, so in the foundation series here, we'll cover some of those. Today what we're looking at is the split jerk. We like to learn the split jerk before the push jerk, just because it helps us get our minds around this mixture of weightlifting and gymnastics that makes these Olympic lifts so much fun. So really, in a squat and in a press, we're taking weight and we're moving that weight around. In the jerk and in the clean and in the snatch, but right now we're talking about the jerk. In the jerk, what we're doing is kind of a combination of this move weight around, but also move our body around the weight. So in the jerk, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drive the bar up and get momentum on it. But now I have this floating bar that's gonna go up, it'll go 0, and then it'll start coming faster on the way down. And what I'm trying to do is maneuver my body around this weight that's floating in the air. And when it's going 0 miles an hour, I'm trying to maneuver my body under it in a position where I could catch it and then stand up with it. So imagine this rig, if I jump up and land, it's only gravity that pulls me down. But if I have something to push on, I can jump up and I can get down much, much faster. So it's kind of the same thing. So watch me do this next rep. I'm going to jump the bar up, and then I'm really going to push on it to work on pushing my body down. So I drive the bar up. The bar starts to float. I shove on the bar, but not for me to push the bar up, for me to push myself against it down to receive it, and then I stand up. So let's talk about these positions. Let's talk about how it relates back to posture, the squat, the push-up, and the jump, and then some progressions we can use to really develop the positions here. So let's focus on upper body first. We just came off of the strict press and the push press. So what we're doing at the shoulder is very, very similar to the push press. I'm setting up nice and tight, belly button drawn in, Kegel, squeeze your butt cheeks, switch your feet on the floor, rib cage down, stand tall. My shoulders are back. I'm rotating in, just looks like a push-up. Then if I bend at the elbow, now I've got this rack position. So it's the same setup as that push-up, and because I'm going to be using my lower body to generate force, the priority is get that bar sitting on top of me. So really the strict press, since I'm not using any lower body, that's going to be the only one where I have my elbows down with the bar in my hands. The push press and the jerks are going to be coming off of that front rack position because I'm trying to drive with my lower body. So my setup is that same, looks like a push-up. My overhead position is the same, looks like a push-up. So that's what's going on in the upper body. Lower body, we're nice and tight. We're going to dip down just a couple inches. Everything stays nice and tight here. And then we're going to drive up. That top position looks just like that jump. So now where stuff gets a little bit mixy is what the split looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get down into a lunge. I'm going to make my feet as wide as my squat. And I'm going to try and line up my knee and my ankle just in a straight line here, and then my knee, hip, and shoulder in a straight line here. I'm going to go ahead and get tight, so belly button drawn in, butt cheeks squeezed, holding my Kegel, Now this front side looks just like a squat position. So I'm driving out, everything's nice and tight. What I'm gonna do in this back position is gonna mimic what I would do in a jump. So let's go ahead and stand up and we'll review the jump real fast. My feet would be right here, everything nice and tight. My hips go back, shins nice and vertical, 45-degree angle. But the key here in the jump is what I'm doing with my shoulders. My palms are actually flipped back. So this is the opposite direction of the way we rotate and create torque in most of our other movements. So anytime a joint is flexed, that's going to be anywhere from here on up with the shoulder and here on up with the leg. That external torque creates a really stable joint position. Anytime it's extended, arms behind me, I don't want anything to dump forward, but I'm going to have that internal rotation. So I'm actually going to be rotating the opposite way. So same thing goes on at the hip. When we run and when our leg goes behind us, like in the split jerk we're learning, we actually need the hip rotated the other way. So a simple thing we can do is get down in this lunge, and then we're just going to wedge our feet in just a little bit. So that heel is going to kind of hang outside just a little. So now I'm going to come up just a couple inches. I'm going to go through my checklist. Butt cheeks tight, belly button drawn in, Kegel. I'm rotating into the ground, rib cage down, stand tall, shoulders back, holding up like this. Once I get under in my receiving position, it's not going to be done until I stand up with it. So I'm just going to spend a few reps learning how to get in that position. I'm just going to start my feet in my jumping position because this is where we're most powerful, and I'm going to jump into this. I'm going to go through my checklist. If I need to, I can go down to the ground. I can see is my knee, hip, and shoulder in a straight line? Is my knee and ankle in a straight line? Are my feet wedged in? If it is, come back up and stand up with it. A super common thing we see, usually the issues go on with the back leg, and we see that back foot get turned out, heel on the ground, and we see all sorts of weird nastiness. So that back hip joint, and so it'll make that lower back unstable. That back hip joint needs that internal rotation, so we need all of that kind of facing straight here. So let's do this a couple more times. We're just going to jump up, hit that split position, check in on everything, and stand back up. Next thing I like to do is get my arms like they would be in the jerk. Shoulders back, create that rotation. So this is what that front rack would look like. Of course, I would have a bar here. And with the bar, my hands don't actually twist because I'm creating that rotation into the bar. But without the bar, that rotation turns my hands. So I'm going to jump up, and then on the way down to my split, I'm going to stick my hands up over my head and then hold them there. So jump up. All right, so now what we want to do is imagine now we have weight. So it's jump the weight up and then push on the weight to push yourself down. Okay, without any weight, it's just gravity taking us down. But as soon as we get the weight, we'll really start to feel us push on that thing to push our body down. So once we kind of practice without the bar, it's time to kind of just jump right in. So we're going to set up, shoulders back, twist those hands to the bar, go through your routine with your core, rotate in, above your collarbone, drive those elbows high. Now we're just going to work on jumping it up, pushing down under, making sure we're nice and stable, correct anything, and then we're going to stand back up with it. So in the strict press and in the push press, remember our center of gravity is the back of our neck here. We're actually going to push the bar back. Since we're jumping the bar up, and then that's all we're doing with it to make the barbell go up, the rest of it is pushing our body under. So what we actually need to do here is we need to move forward about that distance. So we need to move forward a couple inches. So I'm going to drive the bar up, and then as it's going up and I'm shoving on it, I'm really reaching with my front foot to bring myself under that bar. So when you're thinking of your split, don't think of back leg back, think of front leg forward, because we've got to cover a couple inches of distance to get ourselves centered under that bar. That way the barbell's not out in front of us here. So how does this relate back to squat, push-up, and a jump? Our shoulder position looks just like the push-up. Our dip and drive here uses a lot of the jumping mechanics where we drive up. We're trying to keep that bar over our center line, trying to push our bodies into it. And we're using that front rack. That way as we come up, our elbows aren't dropping and we're not dealing with all of the jiggliness in our arms. So we want that bar just sitting right on that front rack position. So play around with the split jerk, especially in the beginning. It can be a ton of fun to play around with. Just one more note is how functional is the split jerk? Really, if you're going to be competing in local competitions, or if you're really trying to see how much weight you could possibly get overhead, if that is a goal of yours, then the split jerk is very functional for those goals. As you can tell, we want to pick one side, and we really develop one leg forward. Most people, when they snowboard and skateboard and this stuff, they have a dominant leg that goes forward. So which one you put forward is completely up to you. But our problem is if we do that same leg forward over and over and over and over again, we become unbalanced. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the push jerk, where we jump the bar up, we catch it in kind of a partial squat and stand up. So if your goals don't involve competition, playing around with the split jerk in the beginning can be fun, but keeping in mind that ultimately we either need to learn both feet, or ultimately the push jerk may be a better option for you. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.